Shelby here. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my February wrap-ups and talking about all the books that I read in the month of February. So I'll start off with giving you all some stats with what all I read. So I read a total of 17 books in the month of February. I read one physical book, 7 books were audio, and then the rest of them were ebooks. It wasn't a big physical book month. I don't know why. I just wasn't really in the mood to have a physical book and read it. It was mostly ebooks. Let's see here. I have my little notebook here of all of my stats that I read. So I did read one book that wasn't a romance, and I read one fantasy book. And then the rest of the books that I read were all romance in some genre. So I read 9 books were contemporary romance, 5 were historical romance, and then 2 were fantasy romance, paranormal romance, somewhere in that genre. And then my rating system for this month, it ended up being a little bit of a better month than January ended up being. I had more in like the 4-star range than I did for January. So I did one book that was 2.5 stars. I had 8 books that were 3 stars. 3 books were 3.5 stars. And 4 books were 4 stars, and then I had 1 book that was 4.5 stars. It's really hard for me to give books a total, like full 5 stars. It has to be, I only give 5 stars to books if it's a book that I absolutely love, and then also if it's a book that sticks with me. Like after I've read it, and I've moved on to reading other books, it's a book that I keep thinking about. Like I keep gravitating back to it. Maybe I want to reread it. And if a book has that kind of impact on me where I'm continuing to think about it, then it deserves a 5-star. Otherwise, even though I really might love a book and enjoy it, but I'll probably end up forgetting it along the way, then it's more likely going to be like a 4-star, 4.5 star. So anyway, so let's get into all of the books that I read. And we'll start with, my least favorite books and then move on to like my favorite book of the month that I read. My 2.5 star book that I read was Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. I'm not going to get it too much into the Bridgerton series. I did finish that this month, but if you want more information about these books, I'll leave a link to my video that I did on them. And you can check that out if you want more information. But Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, it got 2.5 stars. It was Colin and Penelope's book, and I wanted to like this one a little bit more than I ended up. I was really disappointed in this one, and I think that's why I ended up giving it such a poor rating. Even though I really liked Penelope as a character, I really just did not care for Colin. My 3-star reads, I have a bunch of them. So starting out, I read Canvas by N.M. Catalano, I think is how you say that name. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. This one was kind of weird. It's about this tattoo shop owner, and he's got a crush on this girl who owns like a coffee shop like next door to his tattoo shop, and they're kind of like, they flirt a little bit, and it started off really cute, but then apparently the tattoo shop owner guy and the other people that are in his work for him, they like to have group sex with people, and they kind of sort of want to have group sex with her, but then he's all like, no, I want her for myself. And I mean, that would have been fine, but then there was this other plot line that just kind of came in at the end where they're like special ops, and she was like, I don't remember if she was like in a cult or something, but it was really random, and I didn't really care for that aspect of it. I wish, if you're gonna go that route, I wish it was more a part of the storyline and the plot of the book, but it was more so like it just kind of slipped in at the end of the book. So I mean, it was fine. This was pretty steamy. The sex scenes were very steamy, but otherwise the overall like plot of the book was kind of meh. So that's why I gave it 3-star. Like overall it was an enjoyable read, but nothing too like memorable. Then my next 3-star read is going to be Coach Me by Shanore Williams. I was trying to read some more Black authors since February is like Black History Month, and I only read maybe like 3. I was wanting to read more, but then again, this is gonna come up in like all of my videos. I'm a mood reader, so then I just kind of go where my mood takes me. But anyway, so I read this one, and this is a like athlete coach like forbidden relationship. So it's about this girl, her name Amber, and she is like a track student, a track athlete, and she goes to this college and she ends up having a relationship with her track coach. So she is Black and he is, I know he's not white, I can't remember what his race was, but this was really enjoyable. I liked their relationship. It had some, like, the sexual tension was really good. It had some pretty steamy scenes. I liked that it did kind of delve into more racism, because she's like she and maybe one other person are the only Black students on the track team. Everybody else is white, and her coach like really roots for her because she wants to diversify their team, but you know, she gets a lot of crap because she is like the only Black student on the team, and it's really kind of sucks. So I did appreciate that was kind of in the book, just to kind of have that perspective. But overall, it was really enjoyable, and I liked this one. And I'll probably read some more Shanore Williams. I liked her writing. Oh, the next one was my only physical book that I read this month, so that's going to be, you can see, The Savior's Champion by Jenna Marecki, I think is how you say this one. This was kind of, honestly, wasn't really what I was expecting. So this is about this guy, and he enters into this tournament. So the whole premise of this like plot, this world, is that there is the Savior, and she's basically like God in this area, this world. And when she becomes like of age, I think she's 18 when she becomes of age, she is supposed to get married, and whoever marries her is like the sovereign, and he's kind of like the co-ruler of the realm. So to determine who she's going to marry, they have this like tournament, and they become the champion. That's the name of the book, The Savior's Champion. So this is about this guy, and he doesn't really care about entering the tournament. He doesn't really want to marry the Savior, but he ends up entering the tournament because he finds out that if you enter, you know, anybody that enters and then gets picked to be in this tournament, they get like a bunch of money, like their family gets tons of money. And so his family's really poor, and his sister is like paralyzed, I think, from the waist down from like this accident that she was in. So, and they can't afford like proper like medical care for her. So that's why he enters the tournament. And it's pretty brutal, you know, it's basically like a fight to the death, to whoever the last man is standing, it wins. It was okay. There is like a little twist at the end that I completely saw coming. It was at least to me, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen from like the very beginning of the book. So if that hadn't like been so obvious, I think I might have enjoyed this a little bit more, because he ends up, there's like this chick who is a healer, and after each day of like challenges that they're put through, if anybody has like injuries from that day, this healer chick will come and, you know, heal them up so that they can go on to the next day and, you know, complete more tasks. And he ends up falling in love with the healer and doesn't care one lick for the Savior. And so there's some, you know, tension with that, because he's kind of like, man, I don't want to be in this tournament anymore, but he can't get out of it. He just wants to be with her, but he can't. And it was okay. This is more, I would say, a fantasy. It's not really like a romance, even though it does have some romantic elements to it. I would like to. I think she's gonna write more books in this series. I know there's a second one out, which I don't know if I'm gonna read. I want to continue more with the story, whereas the second one is told from the chick's point of view of the same storyline, and I don't really care that much. I don't know. I just don't really care. I'd rather just continue on with what happens after the end of this book. So we'll see. I think she just has that second one out. If she's planning on writing a third one, I might pick it up, but who knows. Right, the next 3-star read is going to be To Sir Philip with Love by Julie Quinn. Again, I'm not going to go into this too much. This is about Eloise and Philip's relationship, and she writes letters to him and decides that they end up getting married, and I don't know. Like I said, the video is going to be linked if you want to watch that. Then I read Your Biggest Fan by Sydney, Aaliyah, Michelle. So many names. This was okay. It was cute. This is about this girl, and she's a really big, I think he's in football. Yeah, she's a really big football fan, and there's this one football guy, I don't know, I'm not a sports person, that she like is obsessed with. She loves him so much. She's his biggest fan. She even names her dog after him. And then that actual guy, he like is in some sort of scandal, so he ends up getting the apartment next to hers just to kind of lay low for a little bit from the scandal that he was in. And she knows, you know, who he is, but he was talking about how he doesn't really ever want to date a fan, so she pretends that she doesn't know him. And then she even writes like fan fiction about him, about like her fan fiction is about how she meets him and they like fall in love, and then, you know, in the book that actually happens, but it has like repercussions because she's not being honest with him and telling him that she knows who he is, and then he's like, you know, not really telling her too much. I don't know, I didn't really care for that, all the like the secrecy and like keeping things from each other, but it was a cute little story. I don't really have much else to say about that one. So then my next 3-star read is going to be The Locker Room by Megan Quinn. I have mixed feelings about this one. I honestly would have given it, I was really enjoying it, and I really like the author's writing style in this, and I would have given it a higher rating had some things not happened in this book. So first, this is like a college sports romance. This is about, I think her name's Emery? Yes, Emery, and she's just gotten out of this really, really long relationship with this guy. I think he cheated on her. And so she doesn't really want a relationship because of what happened to her, but she meets I think he's the captain, maybe? Yes, captain of the college baseball team, and he just immediately is like super infatuated with her, and he wants to be with her and pursues her and kind of wears her down until they finally start dating. And he was really great. I had a problem with this book because I didn't like Emery as a character. I thought she was really annoying. I thought she was kind of just stringing him along, and it was so annoying how long it took for her to finally just like say, yes, I'll be with you. And I didn't care for it. And then she ends up sabotaging their relationship, and there's a big like time jump in the plot, which I didn't care for. And mostly I also just didn't care for how things get resolved is due to like extenuating circumstances or things that happen outside of the character's control, which I don't appreciate when authors do that, because I'd rather their characters, you know, what am I trying to say? It depletes the characters of having any kind of like character growth, because if those extenuating circumstances don't happen, then the book never gets resolved. Their problems and issues, it wouldn't it wouldn't solve itself. And I just really don't appreciate that when authors do that. I would rather they don't do that and just have the characters come to their senses on their own, or, you know, think about things and then push themselves to be better and give themselves that character growth, whereas otherwise their characters would have never gotten that growth to begin with. So that's why I only gave it 3 stars, because otherwise, overall, I did enjoy the book. It's just for those a few aspects to it. So I would like to check out more of Megan Quinn's books. I'll probably read the second book in the series just to see if I like it anymore, because like I said, had those things not happened, I think I would really enjoy this one. So anyway, so the next one that was a 3-star is It's in His Kiss, which is another Bridgerton book. This one's about Hyacinth, who's the youngest Bridgerton, and Gareth. So again, not really going to talk too much about that one. You can watch my video if you want more information. Okay, so then the next one that I read, which is a 3-star, is going to be The V Card by Lauren Blakely and Lily Bellant, I think. This one is mostly a 3-star because it was pretty forgettable. I honestly don't really remember like anything that happened in this book. All I remember is the plot. Basically, it's about this girl and she's like 25, I think, and she's still a virgin. So she asks her deceased brother's best friend, who is now her friend, to teach her how to like seduce men and to help her like lose her virginity. And that's basically all I remember about this book. So I do remember I enjoyed it while I read it, but it was a bit cliche because I've read this trope a million times, and it was basically the same kind of setup as all the other books that I've read of this trope. So that's why I got a 3-star. Now we're going to move on to my 3.5-star reads. So these were, you know, it could have almost been a 4-star, but something, you know, happened in them, or for whatever reason, they just didn't quite make it there. So the first one's gonna be Lilac by B.B. Reed. This is a like rock star reverse harem romance. This is about this girl who ends up getting like signing a contract or becoming a member of this band there, and being like the lead guitarist of this band, because their lead guitarist died. I can't remember if he just died or if he killed himself, or it was like OD something. Anyway, he dies, so they need a new member to their band, and it's her, and they all kind of end up falling in love with her. This is alright. It was enjoyable, but I didn't really care for Braxton, who was the girl. I didn't really care for her character. I thought she was kind of annoying and really stubborn, and some of the other plot lines in the book was kind of I don't really care for, but otherwise it was alright. Next 3.5-star was On the Way to the Wedding by Julia Quinn. This is the last book in the Bridgerton series, and this is about Gregory and Lucy. So I mostly enjoyed this. It might have been more of a 4-star, only for the fact that it reminded me way too much of the second book in this series. It was just, it felt too similar to that, so that's why I didn't give it a higher rating. And then my other 3.5-star read that I had was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I read this for, I don't remember the book club. Ravished by Romance, I think is what it is. It's the book club that Jess from Peace Love Books and Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers does. This was my first book that I read for their book club, and I already had this on my Kindle, so I was like, why not? I'll just read it now. And then I watched their live show and kind of participated in it. So this is a Hades and Persephone like retelling, but it's set in like modern day, even though it's still the like myth of Hades and Persephone. Like her name is Persephone, his name is Hades. They are the god and goddesses, and all these god and goddesses are a part of everyday life in the modern world. So I thought that was kind of interesting. This is all right. Overall I enjoyed the book and the story, but I wish the writing had been a little bit better, and I wish some of the plot could have been a little bit better. I just wish it was fleshed out a little bit more. The writing could have been better, and overall it could have been fleshed out more, and then I would have given it a little bit higher of a rating. But because of those things, it was kind of okay. There are more books in this series, but I'm probably not going to read them because I just really don't care. Then on to my 4-star and then my 4.5 stars. So these are my favorite books that I read this month. The first one is Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. This is probably one of my favorite books that I read this month, which isn't a full book, it's more of a novella. And this is a like friends to lovers trope. This is this like group of friends. They've been friends since college. They get back together for one of the friends in the group is getting married, so they're getting back together, and the girl that this is about hasn't seen one of her guy friends in a while, and you know, they see each other, and he is like gone to the gym and he looks really good, and she's kind of interested and he's kind of interested in her, but they've never like gotten together before because, you know, she was always in a relationship, or he was always in a relationship, and it just never worked. So and it's called Truth or Dare because they would always play Truth or Dare when they were in college, and at this like get together for the wedding they end up playing Truth or Dare again, and somebody dares them to kiss, and that's what kind of sparks their like interest in each other. So this was so good. It was steamy, and I like the sexual tension between them, but I also like their friendship and how they felt totally comfortable with each other, and I like the friend group overall. It was such an enjoyable read. I like this one. My next 4-star read that I had was When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn. This is about Francesca and Michael. Again, this will be in that other video, but this is my favorite book out of the Bridgerton series. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It was so good. It was so emotional, and that's why I think I liked it the best. Okay, then my next 4-star read is going to be Famine by Laura Thalassa. This is the 3rd book in her Four Horsemen series. So that's the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So the first one is pestilence, and then there's war. So then now is famine. And I really enjoyed this. I enjoy all of Laura Thalassa's books that I've read. I really like her writing style. And so this one is about, you know, famine is on Earth, and he has a relationship with this girl. I think her name's Anna. They start a relationship because he ends up, like later in the story, ends up taking her captive because she tries to kill him. After his men try to kill her, and they've already met before this takes place. She had ended up saving him after he was like captured and tortured by these people. So this is at times a difficult read. There is abuse, there's torture, obviously death, because, you know, he's trying to wipe out humanity. But I enjoyed this because, you know, Anna and Famine, he like hates humanity, mostly like, you know, before he didn't really care for humans, and he was like, obviously this is my mission, something's wrong with, you know, humans, this is why I have to kill them. But then he gets captured and he's tortured, and after that he just absolutely hates humans because of what they did to him. So it's her helping him kind of work through this past that he has, helping him to, you know, accept what happened to him, and grieve for it, but then also, you know, forgive humanity. And then also, you know, she has a past that has abuse in it, and, you know, she's still hopeful and optimistic. So I think it's a really good relationship in at least the circumstances, because, you know, they're helping each other work through those battles. So I really liked this one. The next one that I read that was a 4-star was Hate Notes by, this is Vi Keeland and Penelope Ward. This was such an enjoyable book. This is about this girl. She gets cheated on by her fiance, so they break up, and then she goes to try to return her wedding dress, but she can't return it. They don't really have like a return policy, but she can't exchange it for another dress. So she gets this other dress and finds this note in the dress by this guy. And it's really cute and sweet and so heartfelt, and it gives her hope that, you know, love can happen in the world, even though it kind of screwed her over. So then she ends up like getting drunk one night and finding him, and finds that he's like owns like a real estate company, I think, and she ends up meeting him and ends up getting a job at his company, but he doesn't really like her initially because she's kind of quirky and weird, and so he obviously didn't get married to the chick that he wrote the letter to in that wedding dress, so he's kind of like curmudgeon-y, like, you know, love isn't real, blah blah blah. But I really enjoyed this one because I liked their banter together. It was so cute. I really liked this one. And the last book that I ended up reading for the month of February ended up being my 4.5-star read. This one is going to be A Lie for a Lie by Helena Hunting, and I'll probably end up continuing on with this series just because I love this one so much. This one is like a secret baby kind of trope. This is about this guy. He's in the NHL, and he ends up, like, I think every summer or sometime around there, he usually ends up taking a vacation with his brother to Alaska, but his brother ends up not being able to go this trip because his wife is like pretty far along in her pregnancy, and it's a complicated pregnancy, so he wants to stay there. So he ends up going on this trip to Alaska alone, and he meets this girl who is there on like kind of doing like a vacation / like research trip, and they end up having like a fling together, and they're really cute. I love this one so much. So he's such a sweetheart. He really cares for her. I really liked her. Lainey is the chick, and I could just see myself with her. She has like anxiety, which I sometimes have anxiety for certain situations, so I could understand some of her, and she's also kind of shy too. I can kind of understand some of her like background, so I related to her. But anyway, so they have a fling, but then all of a sudden he has to leave really suddenly, and he forgets to leave his contact info with her. He says that he's going to end up calling her when he arrives back in, I think he goes to LA. Wherever he's going, he's going to call her to make sure that, you know, tell her that he landed okay. But then when he lands and he tries to call back, there's like this big like thunderstorm, and the power gets knocked out where she's staying at in Alaska. And then she like has to leave too, and she leaves her contact info on a piece of paper, but then it ends up getting lost somewhere. So they end up like, they don't know each other's last names, they only know their first names. They never got each other's contact info to try to contact each other again. So then a year passes, and they're both still kind of hung up on each other, and they just out of the blue end up being able to meet each other again. And he like wants a relationship with her, but, you know, she's kind of not too sure, because when they met, he lied about being in the NHL, and she's not okay with that. She's like, how can I trust you if you lied to me? Like, I don't even know who you are. And then he finds out that from their encounter, she got pregnant and has a baby, and he has a son. So thus the like secret baby kind of trope into it. So then he's like, well, because she doesn't tell him right away, and he's like, you know, I want to be a part of my child's life, you know, and I loved it so much. And I'm okay. I'll have to read more like secret baby trope books because I wasn't really sure if I would like that kind of trope, because I don't really appreciate, this one was okay to me. Some of the others that I've heard about, it's, you know, they just like keep it a secret and don't tell the, you know, the guy that, and I'm like, that's not okay. Like, you should tell that person if, you know, you want them to, because they might want to be a part of their child's life. You can't just keep that from them. Whereas this one, I can understand it because she had no way of contacting him. And then when they do meet, she's like, I don't know, you lied to me. I don't know if I can trust you. And then it's also kind of, since then she finds out that he is part of the jail and he's, you know, really rich and can provide for her baby. She's afraid, since she's like struggling as a single parent, she's afraid that he might like take her son away from her, which I think is definitely a valid fear, especially being a new mom. So I think I read this, I think at like the right time, and that's why I gave it such a high rating, because I could just relate to the character, especially Lainey. I related to her so much, and I really appreciated the guy, RJ, because he really was into Lainey, and he wanted to help her through some of her like anxiety, and sometimes she would get panic attacks, and he just wanted to do anything that he could to be there for her. And then the same with when he finds out that he has a son, he just wants to be a part of his son's life and help to take care of him and take care of Lainey, and he loves her so much, and it was so cute, and I really like this one. So I'll have to continue on with the second book to see if I like it as much. So there you go. So that is all of the books that I ended up reading in February. I did a pretty decent amount. I'm pretty proud of myself. So, you know, hopefully if this kind of inspires you to read some of these books, because there were some really great ones in this lot. So, but anyway, I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope you all have a good day. Thanks.